Hey guys, welcome back. Unpopular opinions in Pokemon. We didn't get one in last week, so we're back on it now. Starting off with Coop13, who says the dark gray border of V cards is really ugly and definitely a downgrade from GX cards' light gray / platinum border. Man, I don't know what it is, but the borders in general, for the most part, don't really do nothing for me. I'm very indifferent about them. I would say that the artwork in the V cards, especially right out of the gate, in the Sword and Shield base, with I think the melodic comes to mind. The artwork, I think, was a huge step up from the V cards from the GX. That could be the card layout a little bit, but I think just in general, artwork is on the up overall quality wise. Whether or not that's just more effort being put in, because a lot of them are the same artists that we've seen before, so maybe they're getting better. Maybe everything's just getting better. 90s Mayo says, I think they dropped the ball really hard with the alternate art / special cards in Fusion Strike. I think the only one I really liked was Genesect. Certainly a huge step back from what we got in Evolving Skies. So there is, well, what is it? The Espeon. There's the Espeon on the roof, which is pretty much, you might as well count that as Evolving Skies. I think the majority of them were really good. The Gengar is awesome. The Sandaconda by the Heater, I think, is really cool. Not the most popular Pokemon, obviously, but in terms of artwork, I think it's good. I like it. I think the only one that was a little bit lackluster was probably the Mew VMAX. Mostly because there was nothing really beside him to reference as a size. Compared to a lot of the evolutions, they had like buildings or hay bales or something like that to kind of reference the fact that they were Mega Jumbo Plus. Here we have Nachi, who says, the Galarian legendary birds are ugly AF. Just look at Moltres. I don't know if you've looked at regular Moltres or not, but he is definitely one of those squeaky chickens with lighter fluid on him. This is not far off. We got a very chicken-esque bird, maybe some bigger talons now. Red and black. I don't see anything wrong with it, but... And then we have another comment here about following up on some... Charizard has some of the worst background art of all time. See, I don't know. I think these, and this card in particular, the background really doesn't matter all that much. I mean, back in early WotC, sometimes there was no background. Sometimes there was barely any background. I think here, it kind of works well. You're highlighting the Pokemon that's shiny. In this case, being a shining Charizard, the purple boy, back in his purple days, before Barney the dinosaur filed that lawsuit. Needs Zeebs. There was no lawsuit like that. I was just making a joke for anyone that thought that was serious. My unpopular opinion is that Unlisted Leaf is not that bad, LOL. I see that everyone seems to take hating him very seriously, and I don't really understand why. Unless there is some hectic controversy I'm unaware of, it seems like he just enjoys opening packs and being an idiot on camera for views. May not be everyone's cup of tea, but it doesn't seem like it's hurting anyone. So I think this is just largely the fact that people don't want to watch a hype channel. Him, Leonhardt, they both really play it up for the camera. I think largely for like the child audience that wants to see somebody like crapping their pants and throwing it on the walls whenever they pull a Charizard. Some people don't like that. I personally can't watch that, but at the same time, obviously it's popular, and they're popular for that reason. I mean, in terms of hating for anything else, like the celebration stuff was obviously just a mistake. I think he realizes that, and maybe just a warning sign for everyone else to not work with StockX. That's probably where it went wrong. BK 2021. I don't know if it's unpopular or not, but thank God the Pokemon cards have had a lot of bad artwork for their special cards over the years, because coming back now means you don't feel the need to collect everything. So I mean, it's all pretty subjective, and you got to remember time-specific items, less flashy cards, less background, a lot of stock art used in some cases, which the stock art is good because that's kind of where the Pokemon was born. But at the same time, when you're looking at something like a card, a trading card, it's nice to see something else. Nice to see some of the artists' own input into that. There were less artists back then too, so I mean, if you're looking for more variety, you're not going to get that either. I think at least 80% of cards made by 5-Band, Planeta, Ryuida, I've probably just butchered that, aren't very good. No idea why some of the horrific looking Charizard cards go for so much besides the Pokemon itself. Same goes for Pokemon like Blastoise and Mewtwo. So, well, that's pretty much it. It's popular Pokemon are going to be expensive. It's like base set Charizard. There was no playability there. I mean, kids might have thought it was playable because of the fact that it had big numbers on it, but it wasn't very good in the TCG. It was Charizard, Fire Lizard, popular starters, popular Mewtwo, legendary Pokemon from Gen 1, popular, strong, considered strong. That's mostly what it comes down to. Their playability is going to play an aspect when stuff is in like standard rotation. Even older stuff, since those cards would be more played with, like your Chanseys and stuff. Also hard to keep in good condition. So there's many factors. Charizard is just going to have Charizard tax no matter what. No matter how many Charizards are released, he's still going to be probably the most expensive card in whatever set he's in. Just look at Arceus here. He's trying to put up a fight with our Brilliant Stars set. He's busted up the butt in terms of playability, but even the Chase Arceus cards aren't as expensive as the Charizards, which are much less playable. Is value solely based on perceived popularity of the Pokemon? Not solely, but largely. Does artwork play a role at all? Not really. I think rarity and popularity of the Pokemon definitely trump the artwork. So I don't know. There's a lot of factors. Artwork certainly does to an extent, but I would say that it's on the back burner to the other stuff that you mentioned there. Chris says, I'm not sure if it's unpopular, but I am really beginning to despise the use of the words minty and pack fresh. I know Dizzle loves the word minty. If you ever see him, ask him what kind of minty pickups he's purchased recently. He loves that word. Generally, when I read that daily, I feel my blood pressure rise. Not even sure why. I don't know. I like pack fresh because that's sort of the criteria that I look for with my binder sets. If something looks like it came out of a pack and isn't defective, I'm happy with that condition. So, I mean, more in around a PSA 8. PSA 8 or better is kind of what I would consider pack fresh. So, I don't know. Minty is a whole nother area of, you probably just don't know what you're talking about if you're calling something minty. But you never know. Boogus says, I'm gonna add to that list when people say first edition shadowless. I think this was mainly used when those investor flippers wanted more buzzwords. But yeah, you don't need to add the shadowless since all first ed base cards are inherently shadowless. Yeah, I would agree. I hate when people add the redundancy of the shadowless on there. It's just first edition base. It's not first edition shadowless base. All first edition is shadowless outside of the Machamp that had a shadow. As long as you're talking English, other languages had the shadow. Niche. CGC 10 collections are twice as impressive as PSA 10 collections, even if they're half the price. So, I mean, burning money is impressive, I guess, at that same rate. Difficulty doesn't necessarily mean value. That's like the difficulty of collecting a PSA 1 through 10 set of a certain card, yeah, it's going to be pretty hard to do, especially those lower grades that shouldn't even exist because they don't make sense. And if you can guess anything from 2 through 5, you're doing better than probably even the grading companies themselves. So, yeah, I don't know. This is it's a weird spot. So, I mean, you can collect a lot of really cool errors and stuff like that too, but are they going to be as valuable as something that's in better shape and more popular? Probably not. Can you be the collector with the most Mawiles in history? Like I am? Maybe. Sure. Is anyone going to pay money for it? No, probably not. There's just going to be binders full of Mawiles for no reason. But that's the that's the price you pay sometimes to collect weird things and or unpopular stuff. Deleted member. Hopefully not for this unpopular opinion. Binder collections are cooler than graded collections. I would agree. But again, if you really like the graded cards, I think a lot of people later on, I think a lot of people even after the boom, are doing more binder collections. At least a lot of the high-end collectors that I've spoken to, they're doing more along the binder collections. They still grade and they still buy and sell the graded stuff. But for the items that they're like really attached to or that they plan on keeping, I think they're more in the binder realm now, which is cool to see. It wasn't really a thing before when even like the PSA 10s and 9s were inexpensive. Grading was a little bit easier and less expensive in general. But yeah, it's cool to see that transition to be a little bit more accepted. Back at one point, it was just like if you didn't have a PSA 10 of whatever you were grading, especially if it was a set card, it was kind of frowned upon. It was like, oh, that's just junk or whatever. All right, another one by a deleted member. Shadowless aesthetically looks better than first edition base. And I think there's people that say this. Again, I don't think one looks better than the other. I do appreciate the fact that like one is the actual first edition. The shadowless stuff is like leftovers. But there's this weird thing where people are like, I don't like the stamps because it's not symmetrical anymore. But I have bad news for you. The artwork on the card is not symmetrical either. So maybe that first edition stamp actually balances it out. If you want to like weigh one side to the other to see how much ink is on it. Rita fan says reverse hollows are basically participation trophies and the numbers. Yes, I would say so. And maybe is it like an achievement to collect a lot of participation trophies? Because I feel like participation trophies are a little bit easier to come by, and if there are fewer of them, like one per event, not the entire set in reverse foil. Lavender Gengar. Non-Japanese, non-English Pokemon cards don't get enough love. I don't know if I need to explain why, but Japanese would be the origin language, I guess the original language of the cards and the original release, and then English is English. It's popular. It's the language of money. It's and I mean, especially if you're in North America or in Europe, English is probably the way to go. So, I mean, it's kind of a snowball effect, I think, too, with the value. If people are collecting the same thing. And then also just the availability of English is going to be much greater. So, Coop 13. Show bidding doesn't matter if the end bidder actually pays for the item. I'm going to strongly disagree on this. All it takes is two people to fight over an item for it to hit record sale levels. If the final bidder is willing to pay at the end price, why does it matter how we get there? Yeah, but I mean, that's just like if you're scamming people in like a back alley game with cups. You're still scamming someone. You're still doing something deceitful. By that means you just shouldn't have auctions, and just put a price on it. And then if they want to pay that price, they can. Then I think it's fair. Wise Whalemare. Zero feedback sellers are the best people to buy from. I know there's some people that think this, and I mean, if you're on eBay, zero feedback seller, as long as it's not blatantly obvious that it's a fake listing, you're probably fine, even if it's a zero feedback seller. But you probably have less competition. I think Brandon could probably speak to that. Dragon Warrior. Part of the reason that PSA 10s are boring is that they have no story. When you see a card that was loved, you wonder how it got that way. When you see a PSA 10, you pretty much know that it was the card that someone pulled, put immediately into a sleeve, and then sent out to be graded. Dull and boring. I don't know. I don't want extra damage on my cards. I just don't need them to be PSA 10 worthy. If it's slightly off center, if it's got a little whitening on a corner on the back or something like that, I don't need them to have battle damage. Pichu fan, the OC qualifier on graded card labels is almost entirely meaningless when centering also impacts the overall grade. I would agree. And there's sometimes you see it gets the OC qualifier, sometimes it doesn't. Do they just not take that into consideration? God knows. BK 2021, for the 30th anniversary, if we're all still around, Pokemon should reprint all the sets. They can have double set symbol where the second set symbol is just 30 to distinguish them from all the originals. So, I don't know how much of this is trolling, but there's probably there's somewhere between 26 and 30,000 just in English Pokemon cards. So probably somewhere around like 26, 27,000 individual cards. If they're going to reprint all those, there's like 100 plus sets. It's not something they can do. And reprints suck. Damn, there's no way around it. Reprints suck. The sets are all very accessible. Yes, some of them have expensive parts of them, but at the same time, you don't need to collect all the sets. And this is just adding a variant to my nightmare that would be collecting everything twice. So no, absolutely not. No more reprints. Give us cool. Like I love the extended Pikachu. Give us stuff like that, sure. But no, none of this like reprint with a Pikachu with cheeks that have the anniversary date on them. Nachi, scans are overrated. High quality pictures over high quality scans. I'd rather buy a card with pictures than scans. Whether it's raw or slab, it's too hard to see at the surface without light shining at an angle onto the card slab. I would agree. I think the scans probably look better and are more efficient for people that have it set up properly for bigger stores or eBay accounts. And that's probably why they happen. Pokemon Gifts Export. Subgrades on CGC and BGS cards are worthless and a waste of money. Kind of agree. Anyone who actually looks at the graded cards and judges for themselves would know that they don't make sense half the time. I've seen CGC cards with terrible centering get a 9, while the surface is given an 8 with nothing wrong with it. So that's the thing. It's weird that they don't already have the subgrades on anything that they're grading if they're using those to calculate the total grade. I think that's weird. I think that's probably just them being full of crap. But yeah, I don't know. There's like subjectivity, and there's going to be human error with the grade itself. So certainly you're going to have even more so if you're putting individual subgrades on there too. There's going to be just as many discrepancies within those as the grade itself, as everything on the it's not going to be any better. They can give you as many numbers as they want. They're going to make mistakes. Niche says, Unpopular, Buzzwole, Celesteela, Blacephalon, and Naganadel are all genuinely cool as heck. So yeah, there's not too many people that are hard on the Ultra Beasts. They were kind of a quick one and done. It'll be interesting to see how much of a reappearance they make. I feel like they might fall into that category of slightly forgotten Pokemon, but only time will tell. Maybe we'll get more Ultra Beasts to go with, or maybe they'll just be the only ones, and people will kind of forget about them until they make a random appearance in a trading card. Maybe the Sun and Moon remakes or something. Ho-Oh is cooler than Lugia. Deal with it. I would think the same. But the popular opinion is definitely that Lugia is better than Ho-Oh. I don't know. Josh, unpopular opinion. I love reading new collector's posts as it reminds me of when I was full of blind confidence. A few mishaps mellow me out pretty quick. Yeah, I would say so. I think it's just good to take your time when you're first getting into anything to do a lot of reading, and don't go full balls to the walls, because if you're gonna make mistakes, they might as well be inexpensive ones to start off, whether it being ripped off by somebody that takes friends and family payment only, stuff like that, scams and whatever. Or just buying certain conditions or collections or there's lots that can go wrong. But if you take your time and you ease yourself into it, you don't put your full bank account into a single purchase, then you should be all right. You'll figure it out. And even if some small mishaps happen, they mishappen, then you should be fine. You'll be all right in the long run if you stick with it, if you're in it for the long term. On to Pokemon, so I stay with the thread subject. Any reprints of WotC cards look cheap to me. Haven't seen one exception yet. I understand I'm biased since that's my era. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't like reprints in general. And the more they pop up, the more I hate them. Tony says, Pokemon designs are at their most creative when they are based on inanimate objects. People seem to think Pokemon needs some sort of realism to the existence of their characters, but forget these are monsters, and the franchise began as a classic RPG. Pokemon like Bronzor and Trubbish are more interesting than Epic Dragon number 9. I would agree. 100%. And I mean, as long as the inanimate object, like Rotom, is pretty cool. He goes into all kinds of objects. Ghosts going into objects. Ghost Pokemon. Yellow Diaper. Okay. Newer cards being priced absurdly higher than older sets, despite having longer and bigger print runs. So, yes. You got to keep in mind that these new cards that are like 1 in 600 or more packs, there's a lot of rarity there. Even if they print a lot more, there's you can't go back and find anything like that with older sets that weren't printed as much. It's just not going to happen. Even gold stars and such that were pretty hard to get. Nothing compared to some of the crazy chase cards that we have now. Also, you got to keep in mind that modern, as it comes out, it's the new shiny thing, so it's going to have a premium for that, and it's going to have a premium for playability. And if it's a newest set that they're still printing, then not all of it is in circulation. If you really want to do a true measure, then you can wait until it's a generation or two old. So we'll start to see the Sword and Shield stuff drop off once we move on to the next gen, and then the Sun and Moon stuff will probably be at its lowest, and maybe XY will start climbing back up at that point. That's kind of how I see things happening. Again, there's exceptions with like crazy market conditions like we've seen in 2020 and 2021 that might prevent that or change that up a little bit, but generally that's how it happens. 90s Mayo says better pull rates would equal more pack sales. This applies to any TCG. No, absolutely not. People need to be chasing for something, especially the people that are opening a lot. I'm opening a lot right now, and if it was easy to pull everything, say celebrations, I would be extremely sick of it very quick, because if you're pulling everything right away, you no longer have any reason to open. More pack sales, maybe on like, for somebody that's just buying a few packs, maybe they buy a few more if they're getting all the hits. but at the same time, that kind of takes the excitement out of it. So when they do get something big and they look it up and, oh, the Chase Charizard, it's $5.99, and the pack was $4.99. I made $1 by pulling the hardest card in the set, which wasn't that hard to pull. I don't know. There needs to be a little bit of a chase. It's like when I was a kid, I loved Pokemon cards. I didn't have all the Pokemon cards. I didn't even have the base Charizard back at the time that Base Unlimited was out. There was a select few kids that were lucky enough to either pull one or their parents bought them one, and that made it more elusive. If everyone had one at school, it's not going to be fun. It's not going to entice anyone to keep buying Pokemon cards or keep trading or enjoying them. There's got to be some chase there. There's excitement within that. Now, the current set sizes, yes, they're very extreme. And unless you're an extremely dedicated collector, then these modern sets are incredibly difficult to complete, at least in master set form. Collector says, I'm not interested in most of the alt arts, period. Half of them have way too much going on, and the other half look like something made by an Italian Donald Pocket illustrator that got rejected from the actual cartoon. I have no idea what this is in reference to. If anyone knows, please let me know. But I don't know. I think that's the point, that there's a lot going on. If you don't like them, then it's okay. Then you don't have to collect those. It'll save you a lot of money, especially if you buy them when they're the new hot thing, when they're extremely expensive. I have no doubt that they'll drop off in price in the long term. It'll be interesting to see how much they go up, because they are hard to pull, but at the same time, there's a lot printed, and who knows what we're in store for later on. If they keep printing all these different alt arts, maybe the new ones become more special than the old ones, or maybe it just dilutes the overall specialness of the alternate art in general. Also, I don't like the overly fluffy, cozy aspect. Pokemon is still, even in the PC culture 2021 dystopia, no politics and no elaboration on that, built on the concept of enslaving wild beasts and using them in glorified cockfights. I don't want to see Flareon as a lapdog lighting the fireplace, too much birthday cake, Tyranitar, or a Thong Song Genesect. As pretty, albeit goofy postcards, sure, but not the main grails in the TCG, which is also built on the concept of enslaving wild beasts and using them for glorified cockfights. So, I don't know if you've ever seen the anime. This isn't going to change anytime soon. There will never be Pokemon Mortal Kombat where they're slicing each other up. I mean, short of the... Maybe I shouldn't say that, because in Pokemon Adventures, there was definitely an Arbok that got sliced, but he was fine. He's fine. The anime. Back to the anime. Forever and always has been, these are your friends that you're fighting with. Your Pokemon are your companions, and the bad guys don't treat them as their companions. So you might be a villain in the Pokemon world. Maybe that's your problem. But no, it's different. It's not cockfights. No cockfighter is friends with their cock. I don't think, at least. I'm sure they train them, but it's not in the same way. I think the moral of the story is you want to be gentle and kind to your Pokemon, and then you battle them. Very different. All right, Effexpor with his, he's got to step in here with a bait every now and then, and this is definitely another one of those. Red and Blue are the worst Pokemon games and have not aged well. Okay. They didn't start it all either. I'm not offended. Isanagi says, I pull a crimped card about as often as a bird poops on my shoulder, and I dislike both equally. Yeah. I don't hate pulling a crimped card, but if it was a chase card that I needed and it was crimped, I'd be a little bit upset. I think there's probably somebody that would trade you for like a copy that isn't crimped. But still, if it's just a random card that's crimped, great. I'd rather see something that's like horribly miscut. And even then, I think I'd rather it be something inexpensive. If it was something expensive, I would probably just trade it. Will, it says, just because a card has a 5x or 6/8 circ does not mean it's more strictly or accurately graded than a card with any earlier cert number. I would agree. I think there's going to be mistakes. There's going to be subjectivity, and regardless of the era that things were graded. Man, I don't even like to hear when people say, oh yeah, it's more strict now, it's less strict now. Back in the 2X, they were so lax. Johnny McPawney was working there, and he used to make his sandwich and rub it all over the cards, and he didn't even care if it had whitening, and he would lick them all before he put them in the slab. Just look at the individual card before you make your decision. Judging by the cert number is absolutely pointless. It's the same with the PSA video where it's like the old grading, and they're like, "Oh, this is outdated. They grade things differently now." Well, you know what? The old cards are still in slabs back then. The system and the process is probably very similar now as to what it is then. The computer monitors are probably a little bit thinner, but that's about it. The music might be a little bit different too. If they were going to make a follow-up video. Thriftin' Kicks says Gen 2 is the peak of Pokemon design-wise. I think a lot of people would agree with this. I don't. Man, I just have I have favorites design-wise from all generations. I don't know if there's any particular generation that I would say like design was at its absolute best. I don't know. I'd have to count which ones I like and then like make a spreadsheet. Enigma. Maybe some graphs. This is the last one for the day. Aquapolis should have had a Crystal Steelix card. I 100% agree. What happened to Crystal Steelix? Thanks guys for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Join the Discord. See you next time.